Ye mariners all, as ye pass by, come in and drink if you are dry. Come spend, me lads, your money brisk, and pop your nose in a jug of this. Oh, now I'm old, and can scarcely crawl. I've a long grey beard and a head that's bald. Crown my desire, fulfill my bliss. A pretty girl, and a jug of this. And when I'm in my grave and dead, and all my sorrows are past and fled, transform me then into a fish, and let me swim in a jug of this.
Hello and welcome to the Bad Spot and part 13, I think, of the Last Starmarked, my Sundered Isles campaign. At the top of the episode, you will have heard an excerpt from the sea shanty, Ye Mariners All, read by Maeve de Bruyn. Maeve is an award-winning writer and actor for page, stage, audio and screen. She can be heard in such shows as The Silk Verses, Omen, and most recently as Carmilla in Bloody FM's adaptation of the Gothic novel. Maeve also writes for audio, and most recently she wrote and performed in The Devil's Chair, a one-woman show featured in the horror anthology podcast Undertow. You can find all the links to their work in the down below, and whilst you are rummaging around down there, why don't you leave a like, subscribe and click the little bell icon so you can follow along with the campaign each and every week. These things are really important for supporting the channel and supporting what I do, and if you really want to go the extra mile and help fund this nonsense, then why not check out the Bad Spot Patreon. There you'll get early, ad-free access to all episodes, exclusive behind-the-scenes content, and your name on screen like all these lovely people. Last time out, we finally got a hint at what Felicity had been up to since we last saw her escape in the submersible from Crown Falls. In a flashback, we see her and said warship surfacing, then destroying a very strange boat carrying a very strange man, the same strange man rescued by the perilous venture, posing the question, is Felicity and that warship in the vicinity? Meanwhile, we rejoin the action in the captain's cabin right after a tense standoff between May Harrington and Gideon. Gideon had fired his pistol, narrowly missing Harrington as the ascendant moon of Wraith had meant that his curse had begun to take hold. Weakened by the power held in his star mark, he slips in and out of consciousness as the ship begins to struggle in the storm. However, Wraith might be brightest in the sky, but it isn't quite full, meaning that the ship and its crew survive the night, and Harrington's quick thinking hides the truth from the crew at the expense of them thinking that she and Gideon are locked in a romantic tryst. The next morning, the two have a very guarded conversation in which they both try and keep their secrets safe, relying on the other to help them do so. As a result, the two imposters leading this voyage are forced to become allies of convenience. As the storm clears, the perilous venture finishes its voyage across the Ember Strait and makes landfall on Naveni's western coast. However, their arrival is delayed as they watch an ominous scene unfold at the lagoon where they must now row ashore. A monstrous thundermaw, a titanic bipedal lizard, is scavenging the remains of a large creature that has washed ashore, and the crew of the Venture watch in horror as it is killed and swallowed whole by a sea serpent of titanic proportions. As the sea serpent begins to swallow the apex predator, Gideon leads the team ashore and they arrive safely, finding higher ground to get a lay of the land. Naveni's vast, barren landscape comes into view. Towering stone arches and half-buried statues dot the plains. And as Gideon struggles to make sense of the landscape against the documents he's been given by the Academy, the away team decide to take advantage of their defensible position and make camp. However, as the night draws in, the remaining crew on the perilous venture keep an anxious watch. unaware that nearby the night ships are closing in. We see aboard their flagship for the first time and discover its true name, given to it by the ancient Sunken peoples, Bloodwake. So I don't really expect any of you to believe me, but I genuinely rolled Bloodwake on the cursed ship name table. It's great. It fits perfectly. And I actually think it's so good that I probably would have picked it out anyway, because it's like a very metal sounding name. But to be honest, like a lot of the cursed ship names begin with the prefix blood. So you're kind of spoiled for choice if you're looking for a good name for a ship that's crewed entirely by vampires. Before we get into this episode, let's do what we normally do and see if we've got anything we might count as progress to tick off. And this week, I think we actually do. I think that it happened in Flashback, and that Flashback was purely narrative, and it wasn't something that emerged through play. But I think that the revelation that Felicity and the warship that sunk the strange man's vessel does imply that she is nearby, and I think that counts as valuable insight, perhaps more for us than for anyone involved in the story. And now I think that counts as progress on our epic quest to find Felicity Devereaux, so we can give ourselves one whole tick, pushing us back up to 6.25 out of 10. Yeah. Whilst we're talking of epic vals, I guess because we saw the curse in action, we saw the Starmark come to life. Whilst it didn't sink the ship, we certainly saw its powerful effect, right? And I think that's something. I think that's very interesting context. So I think we can mark progress on our background val. So up to 1 3/4 boxes out of 10. Hurtling through this one. Okay, with that all out of the way, let's begin. We can hear the crashing of distant waves, the call of circling seabirds. We are in a lighthouse, a slowly rotating lantern high above, an orange glow rhythmically pulsating into the living quarters below where we find ourselves. And we see Gideon, much younger, fresher faced, and shirtless, looking at his wrist, looking at his tattoo. A pair of hands, a woman's hands, dark-skinned, thin fingers, now dance playfully along his arms, and her fingers trace the outline of his tattoo. Her face is nuzzled into his back, and she holds him close. And he closes his eyes and loses himself in the moment. And then we see her for the first time. We see her face. She's short. She is wearing, if you can call it wearing, a loose knit shawl that is just about covering her nakedness. She has a heart-shaped face. Hair is tightly shorn. Gideon pulls her in for a kiss, and the pair sink into it. And then that moment, that tender moment, is suddenly broken by the bang of the door being kicked in down below, and angry voices fill the room beneath them. They hold each other close. The lamp above them slowly stops turning, then shatters, plunging the two lovers into total darkness. Gideon snaps awake. He's had a pretty uneasy night, I think, on this rocky, rugged, dusty outcropping. The lookouts who had, pulled the last watch of the evening, they're all still awake, but no one else is. And these lookouts are kind of red-eyed and wired, and they're munching on this kind of yellowy orange root that's keeping them awake and keeping them alert. And Gideon gets to his feet. Every part of him aches from the rocks he's tried to make as comfortable as he can. Harrington is still asleep, And there's this kind of thick heat haze. It's early, but the haze is such that it makes it a lot harder to make out those landmarks that they saw from this same point yesterday evening, like the buried statues, the rock arches. They're just that little softer in focus. And he once again gets the dossier out, that pack that the Griffin Academy gave him, and he attempts once again to make sense of what he has. And like, this is all he has, right? This is all the information he's been given. And he just can't. Like, this is the time that he feels most vulnerable, because remember, like, he's an imposter here, right? He is not the captain. He is not the leader of an expedition. Like, he is not blessed with the skills to do any of those things beyond bluffing them. He is not supposed to be here. But he is going to have to do something, because if he gets found out, if he gets discovered, the chief of security will absolutely put a pistol shot in the back of his head and leave his bones to bleach in the sun without a moment's hesitation. So he's just going to have to do something. He is just going to have to do the closest thing that we have to a leap of faith. Like, he's going to go on vibes 100%, right? He is going to just have to get them going and hope for the best. And like, he might be wrong, but hopefully it's kind of better than nothing than just sitting up here. He has to do something. Mechanically, we are in a terrible position. We've got like no momentum. So yeah, quite a lot could go wrong with this. But we have to do it. So we're going to get this show on the road. We are going to make the move, undertake an expedition, which says, when you sail an unfamiliar route through perilous seas, find the way across hazardous terrains, or explore a mysterious site, give the expedition a name and rank. Now, the expedition name that has come to me is Find the Court of the Sunken Queen. I don't know what that means too much. I mean, we can kind of guess, but because we're returning a crown. So that's the name I've given it. In terms of rank, I'm going to make it troublesome. That is not to say, and we've been through this quite a lot of times in the show, making something troublesome doesn't mean it's easy, quote unquote easy. It just means that we've got 3 parts to it, essentially. We're going to mark 3 boxes of progress. This is hard, it's perilous, and any miss or weak hit that I roll is going to reflect how dangerous this expedition is. But in terms of how long I want it to take in game, we're going to go with troublesome. Then the move says, for each segment of the expedition, envision your approach and roll. So we are definitely going to keep a low profile here. We're going to try and stay out of sight. We're going to try and be surreptitious and try not to attract the attention of anyone or anything that could kill and or eat us. So let's undertake an expedition, rolling plus shadow. Very nice. A strong hit. It says, on a strong hit, you reach a waypoint. Envision the location and mark progress per the rank of the expedition. So we are right up to 3 out of 10. An excellent start, and proof, if any were needed. You should definitely operate on vibes, like once in a while. So I think Gideon, using a mixture of kind of common sense and instinct, follows what is an obvious natural path, right? And he leads the expedition cautiously on. And they're trying to kind of move quietly and quickly. And they find themselves in this rocky kind of gully, a gorge that's kind of been carved into the barren landscape. And there's these jagged, sandy rocks that rise up on either side. And the security team, they are remaining vigilant, and they are kind of like with their rifles every now and then pausing to stop and to look for any would-be ambushes or predators or any other dangers, right? But being down here and not kind of up on the plateau, I suppose, it kind of keeps their profile fairly low. And they are able to follow this gully and I think that we're gonna stumble across something. We're gonna find a landmark or something, and that's gonna prove to us that this is the right way. Because like we rolled a strong hit. I think that we have to make that and kind of fold this in. We have to make it coincide with something that's in the dossier, something that previously hasn't made sense. Gideon has lucked into seeing something that makes it make sense, right? I think that that's the break we need to catch here. And I think it's something that he had previously like not been able to make sense of. And I think it's because of the perspective, because of like where he was looking from. As they get kind of around a bit of a bend in this gully, Gideon brings the party to a stop because they stumble upon this truly bizarre rock formation. There are like 5 jagged shards of rock shooting up out of the ground. They're almost like fingers on a hand, like the hand of a giant. And he can't explain it, but like as soon as he sees it, something immediately clicks in his mind. And with Lorenzo on his shoulder, he scampers up the side of the gully, and he's kind of pulling the dossier out of his satchel, leafing through it, and Harrington's watching him, thinking he's kind of lost his mind. The rest of the crew are as unsure of him as ever. And he gets to the top of this gully, or kind of high enough up to kind of see this rock formation slightly differently. And he's kind of leafing through this thing, and he stops when he finds a picture. He finds a picture of 5 small islands in a raging river. And he holds the picture out in front of him and then kind of looks at the rock formation and then back up and then down, comparing the picture to the reality. And what he realizes is that the dossier is actually incredibly accurate, but it depicts this place from a different time. So what used to be a set of strange little islets fording a river are now a strange rock formation of pillars in an arid gully. This place, Naveni, wasn't always a barren wasteland, and he is now starting to realize exactly what effect the crown being taken from this land has had. It has desiccated this place. After a minute or so, Harrington joins him, and the two of them look at these pictures in the dossier, and she starts to understand exactly what he's seeing, and her confidence in him, I think, is like restored, I guess. I mean, she always she knows he's an imposter, but like this now gives her a sense that, you know, they can do this, right? They're not going to both be shot by the head of security. So I think it's time that we do something here. And I think that now they have been buoyed, I suppose, by lucking into this landmark and figuring out now what relation to the dossier the landscape has. I think they're in a much better position to try and figure out where they're going. So I'm going to reflect that by making a move. And that move is secure an advantage, which says when you assess a situation, make preparations or attempt to gain leverage, envision your action and roll. And I think this is definitely going to be with expertise, focus and observation, which is plus wits. And remember that we've made Harrington a connection. So we are going to leverage that. We're getting her to help us essentially. And it's in line with her role as an ally, so we're going to get +1 momentum on a hit and +1 to the rolls. So let's secure an advantage, rolling plus wits. Okay, it's just a weak hit. That's fine. It says on a hit you succeed. On a strong hit you take both of these options. On a weak hit we get to choose one. The options are take +2 momentum or +1 on our next move. We'll take the momentum because we're really, really low on momentum, but also we get the bonus 1 momentum from Harrington. So we go from 0 up to 3, which is a healthy jump. It's not usable yet, but I'll take it, to be honest, because we're going to need it. So I think that because we've done this securing advantage and looking it over, I think that we need to roll that into another move straight away, which is another exploration move, and it is explore a waypoint. That move says, when you divert from an expedition to examine a notable location, roll plus wits. Because, you know, we've sort of got a sense of what this place is, how it relates to the map and all the information we've got. And I think that we need to perhaps explore its significance a little deeper. And that's what we're going to do now. So let's explore a waypoint, rolling plus wits. Okay, that is a strong hit. And not only that, it's a strong hit with a match. It says on a strong hit, choose one. And on a strong hit with a match, you may instead make a discovery. I have never done this ever in a game of Ironsworn or Starforged or Sundered Isles. I have never explored a waypoint and scored a strong hit with a match. So we've got to work out, do we want to take +2 momentum and find a favourable insight? Do we want to mark progress? Or do we want to make a discovery? Now, make a discovery means rolling on a separate table. And I'm obviously going to do that. This isn't even a debate, because, you know, if I've got a chance to do something I've never done before, I'm not going to pass it up, even though mechanically both of those other two options might be better. I think that narratively this is way more interesting. So yeah, let's roll on this table and see the nature of our discovery. 49 is otherworldly path or passage. Really? So Gideon and Harrington are circling this stone hand, this structure, this set of rocky pillars, and the others, the rest of the party, the away team, they are sort of all kind of taking 5 and waiting for the two grown-ups to figure it out, essentially. And as Gideon is looking up, trying to make sense of this, Harrington notices something, and she kind of hits Gideon as if to draw his attention to something, and she points down to the floor. So instead of looking up, they're looking down. And in amongst the dust, the sand, and the kind of the loose shale that's in this totally dry place, there appears to be a set of bioluminescent footprints. Just the faintest of outlines, this gentle kind of the bluey purple shimmer, and they head off in another direction. And Gideon starts to follow these footprints and sees that as they wind around, the rocks that they pass have inexplicably, kind of impossibly almost, these tiny little bits of coral growing on them. In this desert wasteland, there is coral growing on the surface. It's just small. You would easily walk past it and not notice. And Gideon and Harrington follow these footprints, and they follow it round another bend in the gully, by which point the rest of the party have caught up. And between two bigger rocks, there's something that isn't obvious. You probably just pass it and never think twice about it, but the bioluminescence seems to shine brightest here. And when Gideon approaches and stands and looks, he can see that there is a smaller, narrower path off the main gully that drops down. And as he stood looking at it, he can feel that there is a moisture in the air, which is impossible. It's colder. He can kind of feel his skin goosebump with the drop in temperature. He knows this is the way. Gideon has discovered an unknowable ancient path. He doesn't know, but this is called the Path of Salt. What he does know is that the crown has guided him here. So, I think we're going to walk the Path of Salt. So, let's get moving again. Let's undertake an expedition. This time, I think we are going to move vigilantly, so we're going to be rolling plus wits. So, let's undertake an expedition, rolling plus wits. Okay, it's a weak hit. It says, on a strong hit, you reach a waypoint, envision the location of mark progress. On a weak hit, as above, but this progress costs you. We can either make suffer moves, or we can face a peril at the waypoint and envision what you encounter. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to mark progress. I'm not going to forget to do that. So we're up to 6 out of 10 in our attempts to find the court of the Sunken Queen. But what peril should we face? Well, let's use a table. We've got some tables. So we'll use one of the Overland oracles, I think. And obviously we'll use the cursed one. Of course we will. Okay, let's see what we got. 15 is disturbing remains or evidence of death. Wonderful. Okay, so they follow this path, right? And they perhaps don't notice as they are going, but it gradually kind of has this gradient that goes down, right? And you can feel yourself getting cooler. I mean, you would anyway, because it's away from the baking sun. But this is kind of noticeably different, right? The path is narrow and like it feels a little like it's winding down into the core of this island. By this time, it's late afternoon and there's this kind of dusky twilight and it's a little gloomier now. It's not dark, but in certain places they need their lanterns to kind of forge fully ahead. Gideon still has this bioluminescence guiding him, and he's like hyper focused on it. He's so focused, he doesn't notice what Lorenzo does, and Lorenzo lets out a piercing shriek, because waiting to spring a deadly ambush just as they round a bend is a mighty thundermaw, another one. Its jaws poised. Behind Gideon and Harrington, guns are raised as a final act of defiance in the face of this monster and their inevitable demise. These soldiers are trained and they are going to make their last stand. And gunshots ring out. But the shots bounce harmlessly off this mighty reptile's cheek. But what's unusual is it doesn't react, it doesn't move, it doesn't even kind of like flinch at the noise. And instead of running, Gideon moves closer and we get to see this thing, and the fate that has befallen it is perched, almost propped up on a rock. It is very dead, lifeless, very still. Gideon moves around and can see that the left flank of this thing is completely missing. It has been torn away, its ribs broken, it's been disemboweled. The alarming thing is, right, is that it's not long dead. This is fairly fresh. And side note, Thundermaws are really getting a bad shake of it in this story. That's two now that have met a terrible end. And I think that at that point, Gideon hears more of that kind of chanting, that whisper on the wind. And I think it's got a different quality down here on the kind of moist air. Maybe the words are a little clearer, perhaps. Yeah, I think they've got like somewhat of a haunting clarity to them, and he still can't pick out words that he understands yet, but he's starting to kind of get a sense of they are specific words being said. And I also think that his hand is drawn to his satchel and the satchel that holds the crown. So I think we can tick one more box on the call of the crown. Elsewhere, as the sun is dipping beyond the horizon, we see the stone hand casting its long, ragged shadow down the gully. And approaching, we see a column of figures. People working their way slowly towards this rock formation. And as we get closer, we see that it is rows and rows of thralls. And they are marching grimly on in groups of four. Each four carrying what looks like a palanquin on their shoulders. But these are not palanquins of cloth or wood. These are sarcophagi, and they are made of mud and stone. As the column reaches the base of this stone hand, there is this pause, and it's a silent pause, all except for the muffled commotion of winged things from inside these portable crypts. There is some sort of communication, and it's wordless and ancient. And when it stops, the column picks up the pace again, marching through the arid gully, unable to follow whatever led Gideon and the others down the path of salt. Speaking of which, we need to get moving again. And I think that kind of given the grim nature of our discovery of this half-eaten dinosaur, I think we're going to be moving pretty quickly. So we are going to undertake an expedition, but this time we're going to do so quickly, rolling, plus edge. Okay, that's a miss. No momentum going to help us there. On a miss, you are waylaid by a crisis or arrive at a waypoint to confront an immediate hardship or threat. Do not mark progress and pay the price. And I guess the obvious thing to do here, which sometimes isn't a bad thing, to do the obvious thing, is I think we're going to find out what's dropping these bodies. Okay, so that was a hard miss. We will come up with a threat shortly. We know it's going to be a monster, or a monstrous thing that is the guardian of the salt path, right? But first, I'm not going to forget, we do have to pay the price. And I feel this time like I want to roll on the table. I never roll on the table. So let's do that. 26. You are separated from something or someone. Ugh. Okay. So whatever this guardian is, it's going to split us up or split Gideon up from something or someone. It's no good. Maybe I should have not rolled, but you know, it's happened. Okay, let's kind of envision this before we give shape and form to our doom. So the path, which has continued to go down, widens out and it gets darker and danker. And I think what is not immediately obvious, but they do realize it eventually, because this journey has coincided with nightfall anyway. But what they don't notice until they've been doing it for quite some time is that they have actually descended into a fairly vast cave network. And that bioluminescence continues to lead the way. These little bits of coral, like little signposts, signaling to Gideon that he's on the right track, that he's getting closer and closer. The expedition, as they follow Gideon, they find themselves periodically splashing through pools of water, still water, stagnant water, it doesn't make sense on this kind of barren desert place, but it happens more and more frequently. And at one point, they enter a bigger chamber that requires them to wade up to their waists in cloudy, chalky water, and they're all holding their weapons and their provisions above their heads. Now, we have some pretty decent cave oracles in the Sundered Isles rulebook, so I think we're going to roll on some and give this a bit more detail. So, what's the first thing we're going to notice? 69, nice. Massive cathedral-like cavern. Okay, so this is, where we've ended up, right? This is where we found ourselves. This cave has opened up into this huge area, and the lantern light that they kind of hold out barely kind of reaches the ceiling of this kind of vast cavern. And I think we owe it to ourselves to also roll a cursed result on this, because why wouldn't we? Okay, 80 is unnatural. cold. So yeah, like as if to hammer this point home, we cannot get any greater contrast from the sun-baked desert of above to the chilling cold and damp below. So we've got a bit of a scene set here. What is this guardian? What is this creature? Now, I'm tempted to roll up a creature like we used to do on the Starforged run. That's fun, and the Sundered Isles rules do support that. It just directs you to the Starforged creature oracles to roll up an abomination. And I know that we've had some great times. We've had some great times fighting radioactive kangaroo gorillas and electric dinosaurs and armadillo rat crabs. Like, they were all great times. Like, that Starforged run had quite the bestiary. It was a real menagerie of horrors. But I think that I really like the oracles for the beasts of the Sundered Isles. There's one for beasts of shore and river, I guess, which I think is most suited. So let's see what we are going to be killed by. 8 says Great Crocodile. Okay, so I guess we're being ambushed by a giant crocodile. That's unavoidable. That's happened. So what we'll do then, if we find ourselves forced into this situation, is we're going to make a move, see how that unfolds, and then we'll envision it all together. So that move we're going to make is Enter the Fray, which says, when you initiate combat or are forced into a fight, envision your objective and give it a rank. Now, objective-wise, I think this is going to be very simply defeat the Guardian of the Salt Path. Now, in terms of recommended rank, the book says various. That's great, Shawn. Thank you very much. Because I'm going to have to make it bad, right? This is a bad miss. We're at a crucial point of this expedition. We're very close to finding the court of the Sunken Queen. I never do this, but let's make this fight extreme. Is that a mistake? Probably. Given that we've got next to no momentum, we're not like very good at fighting, and we're in a cave. So yeah. What's next? The move says, then roll to see if you're in control. And then we need to pick a stat we're going to use. I think we're obviously caught in a trap here or sizing up situation. So it's going to be with wit. So fingers crossed, everyone. We are going to enter the fray against an ancient giant crocodile. And we're going to be doing so rolling plus wits. On a miss, the fight begins with you in a bad spot. So Gideon, Lorenzo and Harrington are a little way ahead, kind of forging the way, following this trail. Their breath fogs in the cold and Lorenzo's little monkey teeth are chattering, but they keep moving, they keep ploughing on. And as they move, Gideon feels something change underfoot. The floor of this cave starts to rise up, it slopes up sharply. And this is blessed relief because it means they can finally get out of this chalky, cloudy water and get out of the cold. And he starts to scramble up and out and onto this kind of ledge, and Harrington follows. He turns to the security detail, who are still up to their waists, like the chest with this crown in it is being carried on their shoulders, much like the crypts were earlier. Gideon is about to call out, about to kind of call and tell them that like they need to hurry and get up and out of the water. And then it hits. One of the team, like a young guy, and even though he's young, you can tell from his face that he has seen some shit, right? He is slightly ahead of the others, and he's holding his rifle in one hand and a lantern with the other. He sees Gideon and Harrington clambering up and out, and then turns to the rest of the party, who see the light of his lantern suddenly pick out the edges of a giant shape rising out of the water, and he does not have time to react. We see teeth, we see the water churn, we see the chalky white turn to red, and we see the hulking form of a huge reptile turn over and over in its death roll. Its belly is a perfect white. Its darker, scaly hide is encrusted with decades of salt. Before anyone can react, its great tail has brushed the security detail aside, launching their supplies, their provisions, and the clockwork chest into the air. Gideon and Harrington watch in horror, and then they see the bloody snout of this ancient guardian resurface and start to wind slowly towards them. From the tip of the tail they can see this must be at least 10 to 15 meters long. They do not stand a chance. Harrington says, "Any ideas, Captain?" And Gideon clutches his satchel, the satchel that holds the true crown, and he says, "I have one, but you're not going to like it." Thank you a million times. Thank you for watching. Please like this video, subscribe if you've not done so already, and click the little bell icon so you can be notified as soon as the next video drops. I'll be back next time, but until then, it is farewell and safe passage.